The Republican presidential nominee sat down with her own Dana Bash today. She's joining us from North Carolina. Dana, he's very emotional. He gets agitated on some sensitive questions that you asked. Tell our viewers what happened.
That's right. Well, specifically about the fact that last week, especially as Senator McCain and Governor Palin became more and more harsh with regard to the rhetoric against Senator Obama, specifically about the idea that he has connections to the 1960s radical William Ayers. We heard supporters in the Republican candidates' crowds say things like terrorist and traitor, and even worse with regard to Barack Obama.
I've heard the same thing. I've heard the same thing unfortunately, at Senator Obama's rallies being said about me. There's always a fringe element that's in politics in America. The overwhelming majority of the people that come to my rallies are good and decent and patriotic Americans. And if they're worried about this country's future, that's correct. But to somehow intimate that of the thousands of people, 17,000 people were just with us in Virginia, and to somehow intimate that that the overwhelming majority of those people, with rare exception, are somehow not good Americans or are motivated by anything but the most patriotic motives, is insulting. And I won't accept that insult. John Lewis, who I admire and have written about how much I admire, somehow linked me and Governor Palin to racism, to segregationism, to some of the worst aspects ever appear in American politics. And Senator Obama refuses, or has not yet, repudiated those comments. That's not from some, quote, party official. That's from one of the most respected people in America. It's unfair, and it's outrageous.
And because I just want to ask this one last question, because you brought up John Lewis, and I think this is important. I was told by one of your aides that when you saw that statement from John Lewis, your campaign kind of stopped, and you talked to your aides, and you said, this is a big deal, and we need to figure out how to respond to that. And of course, you ended up coming out with your own statement in your name. And in that statement, you said that you were concerned that Lewis and people like him were trying to, quote, shut down debate. What did you mean by that? What do you think that they're trying to do with regard to
the accusation that Congressman Lewis made is so far out of bounds and so disturbing to me? Of course it stopped me in my tracks. I never believed that John Lewis, who's an American hero, who I admire, would ever make a comment of that nature. He even referred to the bombing of a church in Birmingham. That's unacceptable.
And with regard, Wolf, to the top issue in this campaign, that, of course, is the economy. The senator will give a speech on economic issues tomorrow in Pennsylvania. He was very cagey about whether or not he's going to offer some new proposals there. But also, with regard to his state in the race right now, he was really tried to be upbeat about the fact that he is behind across the country in polls and battleground states from the West Coast to the East Coast. But he also said that he has had more lives than a cat. And as you know, Wolf, that is true in politics for John McCain and also in life.
Certainly is. He's come back from supposedly the dead, politically speaking, in the past. We'll see how he does over these next 22 days. Dana, thank you. At least one prominent conservative says it's time for Senator McCain to simply fire his campaign staff. And he went on to say, we've got them just where we want them.
I'm sure he does.
This is what they were planning starting 21 months ago.
Want to buy a bridge in Alaska? Right.